spider's web. Yes, it's me, Stephen, again, and that here at the moment I think he's in his bedroom sulking. Oh, he's just taking a lie down, I don't know, but he's keeping out of the way because I've shouted at him for something or other, but never mind. Anyway, today I've decided, instead of doing a unboxing or anything to do with games, because I'll have 3 games for you next week to unbox and show you, hopefully, what I'm going to do today is a painting. I'm going to do a watercolour, a very simple watercolour. So simple, I'm going to use one colour. It's going to be a nice Lakeland scene. And I'm doing this basically because my friend Karina said she would like to see one. So I'm going to try one. And I'm not sure how the lighting is going to be in here. It's not brilliant, but hopefully it'll be good enough for you to see. So without further ado, I'm going to pause the camera, I'm going to turn it around to the tabletop, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be using, and I'm going to show you what I've done so far with the canvas. So I shall see you momentarily. Bye. Hello again, and this is the paper we're going to be working on. It's, let me see what size it is, I can't remember from the top of my head. It is 11 by just under 15 inches, which is, oh god, Benny's passing on. For some of you I know will be using metric. I prefer old money myself, but never mind. 279 millimeters by 377 millimeters, and I've masked this off. I don't know whether you can see properly. I've masked this off so that I've got about 19 millimeters on the way around. That will act as a nice natural border for the picture. Now, also I have oops, hang on a second. I have my 2 pots of water. The big one is there to wash out my brushes. The small one is there as clean water to mix. And I also have my mixing palette. What I haven't actually brought round with me is my paint. And the paint I'll be using today is, as I say, it's going to be a very simple watercolour. And the paint I shall be using, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. We had it on the couch all the time. The paint colour I will be using is this one. It's a Winsor Newton Cotman's Burnt Umber. So we've got that, and I've got my brushes. We won't need a great deal of brushes, I don't think. Anything's possible. No, we shouldn't use a lot of brushes. The ones I've got for doing a sky is again a Winsor & Newton 3/4, I think it is, mop brush, which you can see there. That will be done for using the sky. And for most of the painting I will be using that one. It's from Crimson & Blake. It's only a cheap one, but it's a decent brush. It's a decent brush, especially for doing mountains and things like that. And we may need, don't know yet, we may need something a little stiffer, shall we say. So I shall be bringing out the old Frank Clark, what is it? It's a 1 inch. It's a 1 inch bristle brush. I don't know. I can't remember. So might be using that one. We don't know yet, but more than likely we will be using a Winsor & Newton. Again, this is Frank Clark. It's a Winsor & Newton script liner brush, rigger, whatever you want to call it. Oops, the end's just come off my rigger. You can see that's not good. So I'll just have to I'll put a little bit of tape around that so it doesn't spoil anything when I can find my tape. Or put it somewhere, never mind. Oh, we'll sort something else as we go on. Right, so we'll start off. We'll put our paint in the palette, and I always like to have my palette on my right hand side, with me being right handed. So that's a dollop of paint, as you can see, placed in my palettes. I'm not going to be turning the camera around all this every time I move, so if I suddenly stop painting for whatever reason, then all I'm doing is either rinsing my brush, cleaning my brush out, or mixing up some fresh paint. So we'll just carry on glued to the paper. Now, for those of you who say you can't paint because you can't draw, there is nothing easier about painting than basically writing. So what we need to think of now is where we're going to have an horizon. We don't want it directly in the middle, so if we go sort of like below the centre of the paper and just do as straight a line as you can do. It doesn't have to be perfectly ruler straight. This one isn't, but again, that doesn't matter. Now, I'm assuming everybody can write, so all you need to do, mountains, is the letter M. And you know how to draw a letter M, don't you? I shall use this. The letter M goes as follows, just in case nobody knows. Basically. Okay? It's just like an upside down W. Well, that's it. This is what we're going to be doing on the paper to make mountains, not a sharp though. So what we're going to be doing is starting around here and moving up and doing a nice rounded curve, bringing it down to just above the horizon line, and one just behind that going off the page. I don't know whether you can see that. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. So that's what we've got so far. Well, that's the centre of the page anyway. That's what we've got so far. Okay, so you'll see it more as it goes on. I shall wind it out to maximum focus. Sorry, I shall wind it out to maximum zoom. And I will start mixing some paint. So we don't want much water in here because we're doing a sky, and there's going to be quite a bit of water on the paper for doing the sky. So if we just get 3 or 4 dips into the water and put it out in our palette, so we've got a nice little drop there. I don't know whether you can see that. And then into your paint and brush in. You got to mix it round. What you've got to bear in mind with watercolour, they will always dry lighter than you actually need it to. So if you mix it so that it's exactly the right colour and shade that you want, it will dry much lighter. So always be aware of that before you start. So that's that brush over and done with. Now what we'll do is we get our mop brush into the clean water and all over where we want our sky. You don't want to drown it, you just want to get a lot of water into that sky area. We're not going to be covering all the area we're doing, because we're going to make some space for clouds, but we want the water to be all over where we want our sky, because we let the water in watercolour do the work. If we try doing the work ourselves, then we haven't got enough water mixed up. Okay, so there we go, we have a nice nicely covered bit of paper with water. Now what we're going to do is we're going to basically colour it in. So we're taking our mop brush, loaded up with our brown paints, and we're just going to do some lines across. Now bear in mind at the top of a sky, with a copy of paper, when you're doing a sky, you always want it darker than you would do for the bottom. That is simply because it's closer to you. You want it to be lighter at the bottom when you're doing the sky than at the top. And that is it for a sky. That's your sky done. Simple. Not a problem. Wash the brush out. And a bit of a squeeze, and we basically wait until that dries. Just give it a few minutes. Doesn't take long. Depends on what temperature of your room is where you're painting, but it shouldn't usually take very long. Now I've got some water that's gone into my mountings, so just simply to make the mountings more defined, we will need to take that off, because we want a nice sharp edge to our mountings, and if we decide, if we paint over that, it's going to give a funny look, or it could give a funny look. It's called a cauliflower, where it bleeds in to paint above. So there we go. And as I say, we just leave it now to dry. It may take a few minutes, but once it's dried, we'll carry on. So I shall see you in a few minutes. Hello again. Just between stages of the painting, I believe I made a mistake earlier. I was going on about the edges of the mountings, and I said it made a, if you're not careful, it could make a weird effect on the paint called a cauliflower. That is not true. I'm getting myself all mixed up because I'm on camera and trying to think and talk at the same time, and that's something I'm really not very good at. The cauliflowering is, it can be effective in certain circumstances, like if you're doing crashing waves. It's basically where the water bleeds into paint that's not quite dried and pushes it upwards. And as I say, it can be quite effective, but we don't want it in this case. But what I was actually meaning to say was that, guess who's back? I'm going to start calling you M&M, aren't I? Eh? Guess who's back? Back again. Laddie's back. Anyway, yeah, what we're saying, we want a nice crisp edge to the mountings in the background, so that's why we wanted to smooth it off, so we weren't getting like a, as you put more paint on, we don't want a darker area to the top, which is going to be like a, what's the word I'm looking for? We can actually tell where paint has been on beforehand and you're painting over. So we want it as pale as possible at the top of the mountings. So that's that over and done with. Another tip as well, when you're waiting for, when you're doing a painting, really only in watercolour, is you can use, oi, come on, camera hog, you can use, to help your watercolour paint to dry after you put it on your painting, a hairdryer. Guess why I haven't got one? Go on, guess. I've nothing to dry. Yeah. So, what? What do you want? Look at that there. Look at that there. Eh? Look, there. Yeah, so that's why I haven't got a hairdryer. So I'm waiting for the paint to dry naturally, which sometimes is quite a good thing. Sometimes it's, you might need one. Oh, that is just not the tripod with his ball. Yeah, sometimes you might need a hairdryer, depending on what effect you can give, because you can actually push the wet paint around with a hairdryer. It gives an interesting effect, but it's not something I've tried. It's not something I really like the look of, but sometimes it can work. Right, okay, fair enough. I'm talking again. He thinks I'm talking to him. I'm not. I'm talking to you. Come on, off, down. Right, I'm going to carry on now because my paint looks as though it's nearly dry. So I'm going to just check it, and I shall move the camera around and see how it's going. So I shall see you in a bit. Say goodbye, laddie. Say goodbye. Say goodbye. When I first got him, I tried to get him to meow. Never hurts to have a second language. Get out of here. Get off. I'll see you in a bit.